or y'all can get beat on, nigga. Like I said, is dead, baby. His dead ass mama. That bitch ashes like on the tip of this blunt, or your bag of bones. Which one? Nah. And I said it. And that dead ass baby too. Nah. And whoever else feels some type of way. Ty, I don't give a about that brother, that nigga brother, none of them. Nigga, my brother in jail, nigga. I don't give a about that nigga brother. What they gonna do? Nothing. I'm still gonna be outside, still in the hood. Nobody ain't gonna do nothing. I'm still gonna make my money and ride through the nigga. They mama. That dead. Nothing but these ashes on my blunts. Aha. Go cry. Mother's Day just passed. Ain't that bitch Death Day or something coming up? Nigga. Nah, y'all could. Next person tell me chill out, I'm trolling you. Flat out, or I'm pulling up and I'm gonna smack the shit out of you. Nah, and that's how I'm playing it.
The video was already spreading before anyone knew two people were dead. People were screenshotting it, reposting it, sending it to each other with no caption, because no caption was needed. The words on the screen said everything. Dead baby. Dead as mama. Some people watching thought it was just noise. Another internet beef. Another person going too far in a comment section for attention. Detroit has seen 1,000 of those. The internet has seen 1,000,000. But this one was different. Because the man saying those words, the man laughing, boasting, telling the world that nobody was to do anything, and he was still going to be outside, that man ended up dead within days. Shot in a targeted attack on Detroit's east side alongside his 27-year-old sister. At least 12 rounds fired. 2 vehicles. One gunman on foot who knew exactly where they would be and came prepared. And in the back seat of his sister's car, completely untouched by every single bullet, was her 1-month-old baby boy. That detail is what stopped people cold. That's the moment to stop being internet drama and became something nobody could look away from. Before we go any further, I need you to do something. If you're watching this right now, if this story already has your attention, please take 1 second to like this video, subscribe to Mystora Crimes, and hit that bell icon. These are real people, real families, real babies growing up without their mothers. The least we can do is make sure their stories don't disappear after the headlines do. Subscribe. It costs you nothing. It means everything.
In a cruel twist of fate, Rita and her brother, 33-year-old Raye Johnson, were preparing to gather the very next day for a balloon release, marking nearly 4 years since a friend died in a car crash. Now they are being mourned. Police believe the shooting was targeted. The siblings were in separate vehicles outside of a relative's home on McKinney Street.
Now let's get into it. According to Detroit police and family members who spoke to local news, 33-year-old Raye Johnson and his sister Takaria Johnson, known to everyone who loved her as Rita, were shot and killed on the city's east side on May 21st, 2026. Police described the shooting as targeted from the start, not random, not a stray situation. Someone came specifically for them. The siblings were outside a relative's home in separate vehicles when the gunman approached on foot and opened fire, 12 rounds at minimum. Both of them struck. Neither of them survived. Rita's cousin Tonya Brown told reporters she had literally just spoken to Rita on the phone minutes before the shooting. She was on her way to meet her, 10 to 15 minutes away. They were about to get ready for a ride out together. That's how thin the margin was. 10 minutes in either direction, and Rita Johnson is alive right now. Instead, Tonya turned on the news and saw footage of Rita's car. And the family's first explanation for what happened pointed straight at social media. Straight at a public feud that had been building online. Straight at the kind of internet conflict that most people scroll past without a second thought, until it isn't scrollable anymore.
What was this about?
I'm not really for sure. I just know that it was some media stuff going on. And
Social media?
Yeah. I hope this is a lesson.
To understand how 2 people end up dead on a Wednesday afternoon in Detroit, you have to understand what was happening in the days before it. Because the streets and the internet are not 2 separate worlds anymore. They feed each other. What happens online shapes what happens in real life, and vice versa. The disrespect is real. The humiliation is real. And the consequences, as this case makes devastatingly clear, are absolutely real. The video that was circulating before and after the shooting, the one with the lines that stopped people mid-scroll, was not a moment of weakness or a lapse in judgment. It was a performance. Nearly a full minute of deliberate, calculated provocation directed at someone specific. Raye Johnson, in that video, was not venting privately. He was broadcasting. He mocked a dead child. He mocked a dead mother. He referenced Mother's Day and reframed it as a death anniversary for the people grieving. He said the person on the other side of the beef was nothing but ashes on his blunt. He said his opponent's brother was in jail and he still wasn't afraid. He said he was still going to be outside, still in the hood, still making his money. And then he said something that, in retrospect, carries a weight that is almost unbearable. He said that if anyone told him to chill, he was either trolling or pulling up to confront them physically. That's not someone processing grief or anger privately. That is someone performing invincibility for an audience. And that distinction matters enormously when you start looking at this through a psychological lens. Here's what behavioral research consistently tells us about public aggression. When someone performs their anger instead of expressing it, they are doing multiple things simultaneously. They are signaling dominance to their own circle. They are attempting to destabilize the emotional state of their target. And critically, they are creating an audience that now expects them to maintain that energy. Once you go on camera and declare yourself untouchable, backing down becomes almost psychologically impossible. The performance traps you. You have to keep going. You have to keep escalating. Because the moment you soften, the audience sees it. And on the other side of that screen, someone was watching. Someone who had just had their deceased child and mother used as punchlines in front of hundreds of people. Someone who now had to decide what they were going to do about it. We do not know who that person is. Detroit police have not confirmed the suspect or officially identified the target of Raye's video. What we do know is that the family acknowledged publicly that a social media feud preceded the murders. What we do know is that police called this targeted. What we do know is that someone came on foot with a weapon and fired 12 rounds into 2 separate vehicles with enough precision and enough commitment to kill both of them. That is not a spontaneous act. That is a decision someone made, sat with, and carried out. Rita Johnson was 27 years old. She had just had a baby, 1 month old. She was barely out of the early haze of new motherhood, still in that exhausting, consuming, beautiful fog of having a newborn. And she was outside on a regular Wednesday afternoon in her car. Her cousin was on the way to meet her. They were going to hang together. Normal. Ordinary. The kind of afternoon that doesn't make it into any story unless something goes terribly wrong. Tonya Brown described Rita with the kind of specificity you only get when you're talking about someone you genuinely knew and not just someone you're performing grief for. She said Rita was a good spirit. She said she'd help anybody. Give the clothes off her back. She said they were together every single day. You seen her face, you seen mine's. That phrase tells you everything. That's not a cousin. That's a best friend wearing the title of cousin, because family gave them a foundation, and life built the rest. Rita did not make that video. She did not mock anyone's dead child. She did not threaten anyone. She did not declare herself untouchable or announce that she was still going to be in the streets. There is no evidence, based on anything reported, that Rita Johnson was a participant in this feud in any meaningful way. She was adjacent to it by blood. And on that Wednesday, she was adjacent to it by location. That proximity became her death sentence. This is the part of these cases that people struggle to sit with because it demands that you hold 2 things at once. You can acknowledge that Raye Johnson said things that were vile and that those words likely contributed to what happened to him, while simultaneously recognizing that Rita had nothing to do with any of it and died anyway. Both things are true. The grief is not divided. The loss is not conditional. Rita's baby will grow up without a mother not because of anything Rita did, but because of a conflict she was standing next to. There's also something devastating in the timing of all of this that almost feels like a cruelty specific to this case. The day after the shooting, the day that became the day of their funerals instead of what was supposed to be, Raye and Rita had planned to gather for a balloon release. Nearly 4 years since a friend of theirs died in a car crash. They were going to stand together and send something up into the sky for someone they missed. Instead, they became the ones being sent off. So here is where this case stands, and here's what it leaves us with, because this is not a closed story. No arrests have been made. No suspect has been publicly identified. Detroit police were reviewing neighborhood surveillance footage and asking anyone with information to contact Crime Stoppers. The investigation is ongoing. Whoever walked up on foot that afternoon and fired those 12 rounds is still out there. And the questions this case raises don't end with the investigation. They go deeper than that. We know Raye Johnson made a video that circulated widely in which he mocked deceased members of someone else's family in graphic and deliberate terms. We know he announced publicly that he was not afraid and that no one would act against him. We know that shortly after that video spread, he and his sister were killed in what police described as a targeted shooting. We know Rita's newborn son survived physically unharmed. We know the family pointed to social media conflict as the likely context for the murders. Everything else, the identity of who Raye was beefing with, exactly when a video was posted relative to the shooting, whether the attack was planned before the video or triggered by it, remains unconfirmed. But those unknowns are exactly where the most important psychological questions live. Did Raye Johnson genuinely believe he was safe? Because that's not a simple question. There's a specific kind of psychological trap that long-term conflict creates. When threats come repeatedly and nothing happens, the brain begins to recalibrate. The danger starts to feel abstract. The other side starts to feel like noise. And so the behavior escalates because it keeps going unpunished. You say more. You go further. You perform harder. Until the moment you've miscalculated completely, and there's no walking it back. Or was the performance itself a mask? Was the loudness covering something quieter and more afraid underneath? Because that happens too. Sometimes the most aggressive public displays come from people who feel the most cornered privately and have no other tool available to them but volume. We may never know which one was true for Raye. And in some ways that uncertainty is the most honest thing about this case. What we do know is that a 1-month-old boy is now being raised by people who have to figure out how to explain to him one day what happened and why. What we do know is that Tonya Brown is grieving someone she talked to every single day. What we do know is that whoever is on the other side of this, whoever lost a baby and the mother that Raye was mocking, is living with all of this too. Their grief didn't end when Raye died. It was just joined by more grief, more loss, more funerals. Is what happened on that street justice? Or is justice something that hasn't arrived yet for anyone involved in this story? And what does it say about where we are as a culture that a public live stream mocking dead children can exist as entertainment for hundreds of viewers, with comments rolling in, before it becomes evidence in a double homicide investigation? Those are the questions I want you to sit with. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Raye understood the real risk he was taking, or had he convinced himself the threat wasn't real? Do you think the attack was planned before that video, or did the video become the final trigger? And how do we talk about Rita, about the people who are innocent of the conflict but die inside it anyway? This is Mystora Crimes, where secrets, justice, and humanity collide. If this story hit you the way it hit me, subscribe, share it, and turn on notifications so you're here when the next one drops. Every view keeps these stories alive. Every share makes sure they're not forgotten. We'll see you on the next one.